Hey guys, so I think we got disconnected.
Technical troubles, but we're back online, I believe. So, so we were talking about SAT.
Yeah.
And so, you and I both took the old test, which was out of 1,600.
Yeah.
And the PSAT we took in sophomore year.
Yeah, so. Took the PSAT sophomore year, and so I was lucky. So I was able to start taking classes my sophomore year, and by the end of it, I think on my SAT 2s I did pretty well, but like on all of my tests I was able to do 700 and above in each of the sections.
Yeah.
And
so you took some test prep classes.
Yeah.
And then how much did you study in total?
Quite a bit. I mean, I'd say the SAT was something that was very consistent through my sophomore and junior year before I went to take the test, and I did well enough, and so I ended up taking it kind of really early in my senior year to kind of get it out of the way, and so I did well enough that I was able to not have to take it again.
Yeah, interesting. Do you remember? Did you do better on verbal or math?
Math, much better on math.
Typical Asian.
Typical Asian. Yeah, math was one of those things that it was. I was lucky. I mean, it was something that when I was young, my father did a ton of drills with us, and so we were always summers and stuff like that. We were doing. Most other normal kids were outside having fun, and we would do some of that, but we were also doing math every single day.
So. I remember you telling me about math games in the car.
Yeah. So whenever my dad anytime most normal fathers probably I think in the U.S. will play sports with their sons and stuff. My dad was giving us problems to solve, right? And so from a young age, both my brother and I were being given. At first, it was just mental math problems, right? And so we were just kind of developing that. But then over time, the problems would get harder as we got older.
Did you think oh my god, I can't believe my dad is this terrible?
No,
or did you think it was fun?
No, you had no idea, right? No idea. I was a young kid, right? So it wasn't oh, this stinks. I think other kids that came to our house, I remember my cousin was saying I remember going to your one of my cousins came and stayed with us for a summer, and he's like, why do you guys do so much math? And I was like, what? This isn't normal? What? You guys don't do math? But you don't do math all the time? That's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I do math all the time with my kids.
Yeah, so at that age, I have no idea, right? It's just oh, this is normal. So, but, yeah.
Okay, and so you studied. You actually spent about 2 years consistently studying for the SAT. And stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you remember how many AP exams you took?
I took one my sophomore year, so I took computer science my sophomore year, and then my junior year, I think I had I took 3 classes, had 3 AP exams, and then my senior year. I took 4 AP classes, but I think I only took 3 of the exams. I didn't want to. I think I was in English AP, and there was just no way I was going to take that AP test.
Yeah. What was your least favorite?
English. Oh, hands down, English was tough, right? I was math and science.
Even today, I'm wondering how many people even understand your English.
I can barely understand myself. Let's be real. I hated English. It was just not something that I enjoyed. And so
was it the writing part of it?
Yeah, it's just hard. It's one of those things that I can talk, I can speak, no problem.
Yeah.
But as soon as I have a piece of paper or a keyboard in front of me where I actually have to write something, it's really really challenging, right? And so I hated it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your favorite? Math,
definitely. No, actually, it was computer science. So that's what. That's ultimately. So when I was applying to school, I already knew I wanted to do computer science because I had taken this introduction to computer science class in my sophomore year, and it was hands down one thing where I was oh, I love this. This is awesome.
What about it did you like?
It's puzzles, right? Computer science. It's very logical, but it's all about puzzles, and it's about finding the quickest ways, most efficient ways to do things. Right, and so for me, actually, as a young kid, what I loved were brain teasers and puzzles. That, I really enjoyed math, but it was because it was very logical. And so the thing that was most interesting, intellectually stimulating for me, was actually puzzles. Yeah. And I think computer science was that, but just in a very different form.
That's interesting. I feel many of the students our students here at Everest I talk to. A lot of them by sophomore, junior, senior year still don't really know, what they want to major in,
right.
And so they will go to the default business or engineering. But you had a sense of why you wanted to do that because you were interested in it.
Yeah, and the reality is that it did change once I got into college. So I think it was good, but I'd say that I think when I was in high school, I had a sense of what I wanted to do, and then I pursued that. But along the way, things did change, right? And so I ended up by the time I left college, I had studied economics as well because I was okay. Maybe I don't want to go down this path where I'm just doing computer science.
Yeah.
So
I see. So let's go back to the college application part.
Yeah.
How many schools did you apply to, and how did you choose that list?
Yeah, I back then it was a lot harder too, right? Because it wasn't. I couldn't, there wasn't the common app, right?
Yeah.
And so you had to apply to each school individually. So I only applied to like 6 or 7 schools. So in hindsight, I was really lucky, right? Because I applied to all the UCs, which was relatively easy, and then I ended up applying to I think like 2 schools on the East Coast, and then Stanford, right?
I see.
So I did not apply to a lot of schools. I think I was.
So how many total then?
Like 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
2 UCs.
I think 4 UCs.
4 UCs.
Yeah, because it was easy, right?
There's only a handful of private schools.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was just I would like to say that it was foresight. I think it was just lazy, because it was a lot of work back then, right? And so it's still a lot of work today, but I think it made a lot easier. So I was lucky. I think had I not. Actually, you know what? I would have gone to one of the UCs, which would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would have been very happy with that. The Stanford was the best school that I got into. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Quick sound check here. We got a message saying the sound sounds a little small. Does it give us a thumbs up if it sounds okay now? We also have requests for you to break dance. If we have time at the end of the video, we might clear the table.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really good idea.
Okay. Okay, so you applied to the 6, 7 schools. How many acceptances did you get? Do you remember?
So all the UCs plus Stanford. So the 2 East Coast. Yeah, the 2 East Coast schools. I was applying to like.
Do you remember which schools?
Yeah, so I tried to a very specific program at UPenn and then Harvard.
Wait. So that's exactly the same as me.
Really?
I don't think I knew this part either. So I applied to the Lauder. No. Lauder was MBA. I got rejected from UPenn twice. Undergrad and graduate school. But yeah, I applied straight to Wharton.
Yeah.
And I applied to Harvard. Got rejected from both as an undergrad, and got into Stanford and 4 UCs.
Oh, that's exactly what I did. That's awesome. Yeah, I got rejected from Harvard. I applied to a special program at UPenn, which was like.
You remember which? It was engineering one.
It was an engineering/business one actually.
Yeah.
So it was like a Wharton CS program.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I have some friends who did that.
Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, so you're happy at Stanford.
Yeah.
I know. What was the first year like at Stanford? Do you remember?
Oh, it was the first year I got a B. It's like the first time in my life I was like, oh, this is what this feels like. It's funny. Like I think it was an adjustment period, right?
Yeah.
And I think one was just like living away from home, and that was part of it. And it was just it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it was just meeting a lot of very, very different people. I remember my roommate. I lived in suites, right?
Yeah.
No. I lived in
not
Robley.
freshman year.
Not Robley. Yeah. I lived in Robley, which it was different from other dorms because you were housed with 3 other people, right? And so we had each you had 3 rooms, and you had a common room in the middle, and then you had the 2 bedrooms on the side, right? And so I had 3 other roommates, right? And that was really interesting because we were all really, for the most part, very, very different.
Yeah.
Right. So I had one guy who was a baseball player who was like a superstar baseball player.
Oh, he was on the team?
He was on the team.
Stanford had a legit team.
Yeah, Stanford had a really good team, and he was like one of the most highly touted recruits for his year.
Yeah.
And then I had a guy who, how do I put it? He was the very much of the I'm geeky, but he was like the tech geek, right? Like hardcore coder, CS guy, a really big, tall white guy. And so it was really funny because you had one guy that was a super jock, and then this other guy, and they were like almost at the opposite ends of what what Stanford students look like. Right?
So who did you hang out with more, the geek or the jock?
The jock. Right? It was like the jock was hilarious because I remember he brought in this really old school computer, and back then I think we were onto CD-ROMs at that point. But he still had the computer with
the big floppy disk.
The big floppy disk, right? It wasn't even the small
big floppy disk or the big ones?
The big one, the really big one. And he was trying to put it in upside down. It was like, I was like, okay, this is different. Like,
none of our students or parents probably, or parents hopefully, but bet you none of the students have any idea what you're talking about.
No, yeah, it's like, you know, I don't know, maybe cassette is the something.
I don't think they know what a cassette is.
But yeah, so he was trying to put it in upside down, and I was like, this guy. And I remember his first question to me was, "Hey, what's your SAT score?" And he was like, "Mine was only 1100." So I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, my name's Don. Like, dude, like I haven't even met you yet. And he was asking me. It was really funny because he was clearly like one of the, you know, the athletic. Like he was on an athletic scholarship.
Did he get a scholarship?
He was athletic. Yeah, he was.
You can get a scholarship to Stanford with an 1100 on the SAT.
Yeah.
You just have to be one of the world's best at whatever it is you do, especially sports.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty funny.
Okay, actually, let's back up a little bit because many of our students and people watching probably don't really even know what the American like college life is like and dorm life. I was just thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
So it's such a different thing than to just go to school. I think certainly in Vietnam and many other places, and some of the daunting challenges were like, where do I live? You know.
Yeah.
But at Stanford, everybody lives on campus.
Yep.
Right. But you lived off campus at some point too.
Yeah, so my senior year I lived off campus.
Yeah. How did you think about on campus versus off campus?
Well, no, so I think, you know, it was partly because of my particular situation too, where a lot of my friends ended up leaving. So a lot of my friends were actually a year above, and so by the time I got to my senior year,
you had older girlfriends, older friends. Yeah.
1 year above, and so a lot of my friends had left, and so by my senior year, you know, I was sort of like, if I don't get into a great dorm, then I want to find something off campus, right? And I just wanted a different experience because I had spent, you know, I had spent 3 years, you know, living in the dorm life, and it kind of creates a bubble, right? And I think it's very easy to be very comfortable. But for me, I was like, okay, you know, if I get something amazing, then great. But otherwise, it'd be nice to do something different,
right?
And that's what kind of prompted me to go and to try to find something off campus.
Yeah. Cool. So I was really happy. I was in an all freshman dorm my freshman year.
Yeah.
But I made this mistake of like dating this girl who was, I mean, she was fantastic, but it was long distance. She was on the East Coast at Brown.
Yeah.
And I was at Stanford, and we were trying to keep this relationship. And I spent all these nights just on the phone with her. You know, it'd be like 10, 11 p.m. for her. So it's like she's getting ready to go to bed. And it'd be like right in the middle of like whatever interesting dorm activity they're doing. And probably 3-4 nights a week I'd be on the phone. And huge regret of mine. So if anybody of you goes to the school on the West Coast, highly recommend to not do that.
Yeah, it's true. It was, freshman year is a lot of fun because I mean, hopefully, like, I think I came in with the mindset of just trying everything, right?
Yeah.
Which was great. So
what were your favorite activities at Stanford?
So I did a couple different things. So I did ASA, which was like the Asian American Student. Right?
Yeah.
And then I also did a couple engineering related ones, so like bases, and then Stanford Consulting was another one, and I also ended up doing what was it? Oh, I also ended up outside of that. I was actually like I was really into hip hop, right? And so I was in a band with a couple friends. And stuff like that.
Tableau.
Yeah,
I remember. So you were the background dancer.
I was the break dancer. Right?
You were the break dancer for Tableau.
Yeah, I was the break dancer. I would like to think that I was like the face, you know, but no.
For those guys who follow hip hop and K-pop in particular, Tableau then founded Epic High in Korea and became a Stanford sensation. And Don was the reason he was successful.
No, he was successful in spite of me. Right? That's probably more accurate.
So I remember there was a talent show.
Yeah.
I forget if it was Asa or somebody put on. There was this talent show, and I was trying to rap. I was rapping. It was me, V, and Chris, my roommates, and we decided to do a rap. We took Electric Relaxation by Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
And we added on like 3 more verses.
I think I do remember this.
Yeah. And we went on, we were like, oh man, I thought we rocked the mic, right? Yeah. And then we lost Tableau. And you.
Yeah.
I was so angry we lost that talent show.
Oh, he was, I mean, like, even from then, he was, like, always, like, super talented, right?
Super talented.
So, like, it was, I mean, I think we all kind of knew that he was going to pursue something, like, we all knew that was what he was going to do after school. I think for the rest of us, one of the guys was Will, and he ended up going and working for.
He had a really interesting career.
Yeah, so he was supposed to go to medical school, and then instead went and worked for Thomas Keller, who was a really famous chef, and was like a sous chef at like a very famous restaurant, right?
So this entire band has gone off and done interesting things. The lead singer-songwriter has actually become a singer-songwriter producer in Korea, very successful. You've gone and done your business and entrepreneurial path. The other guy's gone into food, and is a chef entrepreneur.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's actually probably I think the coolest thing that now that I realize is like one of the most amazing things about that experience, the Stanford experience, was just meeting people that were going to do like really cool things, right? And I think like every person that came in there had something very, very interesting. It was very, very different, right? And it was like very unique. And so people, and I think that you see the sort of the result of that in terms of like people's where their lives have gone, like the different paths they've chosen and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely concur. So going to a top school, like the best thing I think was not even the academic courses. It was the people we were surrounded by. Yeah. And I didn't even appreciate it at that time. You're just like hanging out with baseball player, studs to future chefs and rappers, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all sorts of really interesting things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool. At school, both high school and college actually, were you a early riser, late riser? Now you don't wake up so early.
No, I've always I hate mornings, and so I actually would so my freshman year was definitely an adjustment period, and I think academically it's probably my worst year. But then as I kind of figured things out, like I ended up figuring there's certain things that I realized about my own learning style and stuff like that, and so as I went into like my sophomore and junior year, I was I had a much better sense for like what to do, how to study and stuff like that, right? And so I would study from like 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Yeah. And so that became my preferred time to study. So.
All right, we have a couple questions. One is we need to speak slower.
Okay.
Two is who's from Victor. Victor, I don't know which Victor this is.
Yeah, okay.
Who spends more time on their hair? I spent 3 minutes this morning.
I spent about 4, so I spent a little bit more time. Thanks for that question, Victor.
What was the most memorable part of your college experience?
It was like hanging out with friends. Like my spring breaks were probably some of the most memorable. Like,
where'd you guys
go? So we went to Hawaii 2 years, and then 1 year we went to Vancouver. And so I mean the academic stuff is great, and like I'm very thankful to have had that opportunity. But it was actually just like hanging out with friends, right? Like some of the trips, and those were some of the things that I look back at. Like, and we're back then, like, a lot of us, we were lucky because we had cameras, and so we was like right at the start of like
the old school cameras.
Yeah, right. But they were still, we saved it, and it's funny. Like if I look back, I think back, like, those were some of the most fun and most memorable things.
Yeah, same here. All the trips. It was I cannot remember a single thing I learned in class. Maybe how to build a supply-demand curve, but then all the other stuff totally gone out.
Yeah, it's very little, right? So I don't remember a lot of any of those types of things, right? And so,
you often were up late at night.
Yeah.
At Stern late night or elsewhere, hanging out, doing work. Do you have any favorite memories from hanging out at night? Other than introducing me to Manali?
I think I just remember, like, actually, what we used to do is we would go play basketball late at night. So
we
would, like, study, we'd get, like, our snacks, and sometimes we'd go out to the courts, and so that was actually...
That was a lot of fun.
And so we'd play, like, Arriaga, or, like, some of the other late night places.
You were never that good, though.
I would like to disagree, but yeah, it's probably
fair. Okay, so maybe shifting on to career, like, you've had a really interesting variety of jobs in your life. How did you kind of pick a career just leaving school? And did you find the majors you had studied prepare you for that well?
So coming out of school, I decided, like, I didn't want to do engineering, so I had interned, at between my sophomore and junior year, I had interned at a engineering company.
Yeah.
And from that experience, I was like, you know what? Like, I like it. I really, really enjoyed.
Do you remember the name of the company?
I don't actually at this point. But then I decided that that's not something I wanted to do. So ultimately, I ended up looking at kind of other options. And I think for me, you know, it was also maybe it was at that time that a lot of people went into consulting, into like investment banking, and so that's where I ultimately decided to. So I said, okay, I want to do something in that area. Yeah. And so it was like my experience with Stanford Consulting kind of helped to give me an idea.
Yeah, we were both involved in Stanford Consulting.
Yeah. So that was my first like foray, and I think for somebody, I also wanted to keep my options open, and I felt like doing consulting would allow me to do that. So.
I see. And so, which helped you more prepare for the consulting side of it? Economics,
computer science,
computer science.
Yeah, and I think like the cool thing with computer science is that like there's a programming aspect, but you really are taught how to think about problems, right?
Yeah.
And how to structure things, and how to when you look at problems to break them up into smaller components, and that was probably the single most valuable like academic thing that I learned. Was just how to think about problems and how to break them up, and taking very complex things and being able to kind of focus on different aspects of it.
Yep.
So it wasn't any particular class, but it was just
the way of thinking.
The way of thinking.
So I mean, we've written some posts about this, about the whole concept of computational thinking, right? As just that methodology behind computer science, not the learning of a language. I feel like so many parents and students think about learning computer science as learning to program in Java or learning to program in Ruby on Rails or whatever it is, and in reality, I've heard this from so many different friends who have done engineering. It's the mindset of being able to solve problems and organize your thoughts, right, logically. So cool. And so, how long did you do consulting for?
I did for 2.5 years. So from there, I ended up going into finance. Right? So I went and joined a small fund called Red Mountain Capital Partners in Los Angeles.
Yeah. And what kind of investing did you do?
So we were investing in microcap companies, which were U.S.
Can you explain
listed,
a micro?
Yeah, which is means that they have a total market value of less than $500 million, right? And so they were tiny companies.
What's funny is like in the U.S. we call less than 500 million microcap, and then we come here to Vietnam,
and most companies are below that threshold. And so so I learned finance in that job.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. There were some questions about best colleges. What best colleges would you recommend for someone from Vietnam who's now studying abroad, presumably, who wants to learn computer science?
I mean, in terms of the universities, right? Like definitely like Stanford, MIT, Caltech, Carnegie Mellon. Those are all like Chicago has a really Berkeley also have like a really strong program.
One of my roommates is now professor of electrical engineering at Berkeley.
Oh really? I didn't know that. Which roommate?
A lot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I think the benefit of being like either at Stanford or Berkeley is that you're in like Silicon Valley, and that helps a lot, right? In terms of like job placements and stuff like that. But still, there are a lot of other really strong programs.
Yeah, I mean, like even like liberal arts schools.
Yeah, they've all beefed up their programs.
It's phenomenal. So some of the ones you may not even heard of before, but Grinnell is a fantastic liberal arts school that has a very strong computer science engineering program. Olin College, which I had the honor of spending some time there last month. It's out in Boston, close to all the whole community there. And they've only been around for 15 years, but I think they're doing some really cutting edge work around learning to think as an engineer in the design thinking process. So there's actually an incredible number of places you can go now, I think, to get skills. And then on top of that, there's all these additional online and offline places you can go, like General Assembly, Code Academy.
And I think those are really good if you're starting out. Like I think they make it very easy for you to get plugged in. But if you want to do something more advanced, I think you have to take some of the higher level classes and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so thank you, Michael Lay, for asking that question there. I'm trying to scroll more questions, but I'm like having technical troubles here.
We're trying to figure this out as we go, guys.
Okay, Tatiana Phung. Why did you guys decide to base yourself in Vietnam and specifically Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City?
Sorry, you want to take that?
Oh man, I think that like Vietnam has an incredible amount of energy. Certainly, a population that we personally can relate to as Vietnamese Americans growing up abroad. But we had spent a lot of time both working in Saigon specifically. And we kind of said, look, if we're going to go down an education business venture, like between trying to do something back in the U.S. or any other market, like where is there an opportunity that we can uniquely contribute to, that we can uniquely tackle? And we felt that our network and time and experience that we had spent working in Vietnam would give us hopefully some knowledge and network and give us an advantage ultimately.
Yeah, and I think the other part is that I think a lot of the work that we've done outside of our jobs have always been around the Vietnamese community, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's been always something important. I know for Tony, it's always been something that even from like high school days, right?
Yep.
Working with the Vietnamese community and helping Vietnamese young people has been something that's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, if you look at Vietnam, we're about 100 million people, 17 million students, right? And there's a huge opportunity for education to be better, improved, and we believe that it should be a very big move. We believe that we want to transform how learning happens. Yeah. But it's a hard job, and it starts with individual students that we're working with. It's the software that we're building, the methodology that we're teaching under is a big part of it. But ultimately, it has to inspire students, and why not start with families that we kind of already knew as a starting point? And so, that's why we started there. Another question here from Long Le. Is USC worth the money to spend on tuition? And which do you think is better between USC and UCLA in general? Maybe not just for engineering.
Yeah, I'm biased, and I'll admit I'm biased because my younger brother went to UCLA, and I think UCLA has like is one of the I'd say the top 20 schools. And so I have a partial bias for UCLA because I think it's relative to USC, it's cheaper. I think both offer like a really great quality education, and I've had friends from both. So I don't think it's a matter of is one necessarily better, but I think value UCLA is potentially better.
So I think if this was 20 years ago when we were around in college, that was absolutely true. Yeah. I think it's actually far closer to parity today.
Actually, you're right. These UCs have gotten more expensive.
Yeah. UCs have gotten more expensive, especially if you're an international student. You're not paying the in-state tuition anyways. But USC has come up the rankings tremendously over the last decade, 2 decades as well. They've invested a ton. And I'm personally conflicted because one, I hate both those schools compared to like Stanford. When you're trying to follow Stanford sports, we're all in the now Pac-12. It used to be the Pac-10 league. And USC fans, they're terrible. One time my wife went to a USC football game with Claudia, a mutual friend of ours from Stanford, and they sat in the USC student section, and maybe that was their dumb mistake, but like Claudia's husband was a USC grad, so they got tickets there. Anyways, when they started cheering for Stanford, like, the USC fans spit on them.
Well, okay, that's pretty bad.
That's bad. That is bad. But otherwise, actually, my wife now works as a professor at USC in the medical school. So I have a fond appreciation for the work that they're doing academically to get better. I disagree still with their fans, but yeah. So I think it's actually much closer. And the reality is, stepping back in terms of college rankings in general. Yeah. I think they're somewhat misleading, and even the college rankings, U.S. News and World Report has to make money. They make money every year by issuing these rankings out there that make everybody really worried. And look, I think directionally it's helpful to know, is a school reputable? But then beyond that, it's far more important to find the right school for whatever it is you're looking to study and the type of community. So USC is way smaller a school than UCLA. Yeah. Right.
And there's some perks and benefits to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a private school, and so there are some nice things about that.
So I think there's many other things you want to consider: size of school, location, certainly the specific majors and the strengths of that. Yeah. What the alumni do from that school and within that major. So a lot of various considerations. Okay. Let's see. Tui. Wait, this is our Tui. From a student. Okay, from one of our students in District 7. What were you like in middle school? Do you remember? We started in high school. Maybe we should start back in middle school.
I was not a good kid. Okay, well, no, to be fair, I was always like very like academically inclined, but I was probably at my worst like as a middle school student. Like I was really rebellious, right? So
what were your grades like?
I was still a straight A student.
Oh.
So that's the thing.
So bad.
I was but I was still like I wasn't hanging out with the best kids. Let's just put it that way. Like,
who were you hanging out with?
I was hanging out with not the best kids. Like I got in a lot of trouble in middle school. Right? I'll leave it at that. But no, But it was weird. I kind of had these like I don't know. Like I still went to church and I did that, but I was also very rebellious. I also would stay out late, sneak out, like as a middle school student. Right?
Yeah.
So, I got in a lot of trouble. So.
Xin chào chị Hoài Minh ạ. Thank you for listening in. And where is Hami right now? I hope she's doing well. We would love to catch up with her if she's ever back in town. Wadeen, UC Davis. I think you guys have come up the rankings quite a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, the UC of all the state school systems is one of the most robust in the country of having a network of very strong schools. But for international school students, it's not the cheapest option. It's almost as expensive as many of the private schools out there. So
yeah, I think growing up in California, you're pretty lucky to get access to those schools.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just jump back to this real quick, and then we'll go back to questions afterwards. So, career, you did consulting for 2.5 years at Bain Capital, Bain Consulting, and then you jumped into finance, specifically public equities, investing primarily, microcaps, a little bit of private on the side. There. Was that a hard shift? Like, you didn't study accounting, you didn't study finance, you had economics.
No, it wasn't too bad. A lot of the stuff I learned, like you get trained on the job, right? And I think, and that's the same thing with consulting too. It's like they don't. I think with both of those positions, they don't. They look for a specific major, right? And because they intend to teach you on the job,
right?
And so a lot of the things that I learned in finance, I learned while doing the job.
And that's a huge difference, I feel like, relative to the system in Asia generally, and specifically. In Vietnam.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because I think for most people, like if you go to a certain school to do like a specific job, right?
Yeah.
And I think the reality is, or for my experience was always, I was trained on how to think and how to learn. I think that was actually the most important thing. It's just like, okay, so I'm doing something new. Can I go figure that problem out? And that's what I learned from school. It wasn't about a specific topic or a piece of knowledge or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say for any of our students who are stressing out about like what majors to consider, it's so much less important in the U.S. if you're trying to like find a job there, and instead you should look for things that really just interest you. Like, I did economics and industrial engineering master's program at Stanford and economics undergrad, but actually I feel like I should have done it differently. I should have done the more liberal artsy stuff. I wish I'd actually done history or philosophy. And so I'm like listening to this awesome hardcore history podcast now. That is like 3-4 hour episodes on like history, and I'm learning about all sorts of really interesting things that I just never knew. But I feel like what you said, it's a way to think. It's just so much more fun.
Yeah, and your point about like if I could go back and take some of these other classes. So I remember taking there's a couple classes that I took in school that were like very different, and the thing that was hard was that because I was double majoring, I didn't have a lot of time to take like other classes. But that's like one of my regrets is like not being able to take like these other classes that would have been really cool. So I took one on architecture, and that's like still to this day, like I still remember a lot of those things because it was so different. Right. And so some of those classes.
Architecture.
I took like an architecture and design class. And so
see, I didn't take anything from the design school. Barely took. I didn't take any of the soft stuff I really wanted to take. That's cool.
So those are the things I was like, if I could go back, that's one thing. And then second is I wish I could just like study abroad. Right? Like that's the other big regret that I had is that like I think when you're young, you're willing to kind of things are different. You look at the world very differently.
Totally.
And so I just never had that desire. Like even before coming to Vietnam, I didn't have that desire. Like I went straight back home. Like after
went back to LA.
I went back to LA. And I was like, wanted to like be around my friends and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I got older when I was like, I wish I would have taken that opportunity.
Is that the biggest regret you have?
That's probably the biggest. Like not studying abroad when I was younger. But I think I've made up for it. Like with the last being here for like 10 years. And
10 years. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, it's like
next month.
July. July will be like 10 years.
I thought it was April, no? Oh no. July.
July will be like
7? I forget the
2007. I came in 2007. So yeah.
Almost 10 years here. Amazing. You how much did you work out back then, and how much do you work out now?
Well, if you ask my friends, they don't think I work out, right? Like, I'm pretty sure they assume that, like, I just go to the gym and I just hang out there. Like, I don't think they I think, well, one of the trainers at the gym was like, people assume that you don't work out, right? Like, and I was like, slightly offended, but, actually, I started working out in college because, like, my roommates and stuff, or my friends, like, worked out, and so Did
you roommate with BJ also?
Yeah, so BJ was.
Dude, this guy's the buffest Asian dude I'd ever met.
Yeah, he's huge. And then him and Drew, right?
Yeah.
Those guys are like,
massive.
They're massive, and so I learned how to work out through those guys.
Very cool. There's frequently phone calls that we do, and you're like, I'm trying to talk about something serious, and you're like, hang on, I'm in the middle of a set.
Gotta get those pull-ups in, dude.
Okay. You spent that time in LA consulting finance.
Yeah.
What made you want to come back to Vietnam in the first place?
There's a couple different reasons. First is I had a really good opportunity, just in terms of where I was in my career, in terms of where Vietnam was at. It made a lot of sense. Second is that, like, I'm Vietnamese, and I grew up not having I didn't know what it meant to be Vietnamese. I grew up in Southern California, but not around a lot of Vietnamese people. Yeah. And so it was something for me to kind of learn more about Vietnam, about, like, where my parents came from, like what it meant to be Vietnamese. And then I think the last part was, like, I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to try something that was different. I felt that, like, if I wasn't going to do it then, like, I would never have that opportunity as I got older. So those were sort of the main reasons.
Okay, jumping back to the questions here real quick, and then we'll go back to your career. But Long Lei has a question about preparing for SAT and AP exams in general, versus spending time doing clubs and extracurriculars and breakdancing.
You gotta find the balance. I think at the end of the day, like, if you don't have, you still need the academics, right? And so I would say make as much time for those other things that still allows you to do well in the SAT and AP. And so for me, like, I went and did all these other things, but it was still, like, the number one priority for me was still making sure that, like, my SAT scores were solid. And now, if you're already doing well, it doesn't mean, like, if you're getting, depending on where you want to go to school, but if you're getting within a certain range, like, the extra 10, 20 points isn't going to matter, right?
So what's that certain range where it doesn't matter?
I think it depends on the school. So I think, whatever school target you have in mind, I would look at where the average is, right? And I'd look at the, between the 25th and 75th percentile, or, where the bulk of the students are. And if you're within that range, like, then I'd say you should be focusing on other things, right? Like, the difference between a score of, let's say, hypothetically, 1,400 versus 1,450 is not going to be, depending on the school you apply, is probably not going to make that as big of a difference versus taking that incremental time and investing it in, like, extracurriculars, right? So I do think that you've got to make sure your scores are to a level that is competitive for the school, and then after that, you should absolutely be focusing on these other schools. So the other thing too is with APs, like, in your senior year, for example, like, your scores don't matter, right? Because it matters in the sense that
that you're taking the class.
It matters that you're taking the class. The scores will be useful once you get into college. But, like, before that, before you even, you're applying in your senior year, so a lot of these scores sort of don't matter at that point. Right. But for the purpose of entry, it doesn't matter at that point, right?
Yeah, so I found that, like, the, you have test scores, ACT, SAT, you have your academic grades, and then all the extracurricular stuff, right? Yeah. And how you package it together in the application. But depending on the school you're applying to, if you're just trying to get to a school in the U.S. that's a top 200, 300 school, like, the bar is actually fairly easy in the sense that, like, if you have okay grades and okay scores and are participating in something, you're probably okay, right? Yeah. It really has to be gauged relative to the target of the school competitiveness that you want to apply to. But absolutely, we have so many parents, and just last week I had a case where one of our longtime students, who's doing really well, but he called me and we spoke, and he was like, "Yeah, Tony, I had a 32 on my ACT, which is really good. Yeah, but, like, my mom wants me to get, like, a 34 or 35. It's like, it's not good enough." And that's like saying, like, on the 1,400 or probably even higher than the 1400, right? I'm at a 1500 and, my mom's not happy until I get to a 1550.
Yeah.
My advice was exactly the same there, right? That incremental little bit when you're already like competitive enough.
Yeah.
The big weakness was not the SAT or
Yeah.
ACT score. The big weakness was this student had almost no significant extracurricular. He participated, but hadn't really done anything really challenging to take a leadership position or to build something.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that was like the glaring problem in that one, and that's a situation we run into so often.
Yeah, and I think it's hard here, right? Because there aren't as many opportunities to do extracurricular, whereas I think in the U.S. And so this is why, I think if you're able to demonstrate that and do something that's different, it will really set your application apart.
Totally. So going back to your career, so you then came to Vietnam and you spent some time working in one of the most well-known consumer chains, franchises in this business. After first doing a stint in the finance industry here, how did you think about the career kind of going from finance or to something more operational to all the way to starting this with me?
Yeah, so I think along the way I realized that finance wasn't something that I was hugely passionate about. Not at least the way in terms of the jobs that I was doing, and I realized that I wanted to build something. I wanted to kind of to get in there, and so that was kind of part of the reason why I decided to go and work for Viet Thai, which includes Highlands Coffee for those of you that are in Vietnam, and so because I was Viet Thai had this incredible story of having built out one of the first well-known coffee chains in Vietnam. And so I wanted to go and I wanted to learn for somebody that had built literally from one store and kind of built that whole thing.
I remember. I just had lunch yesterday with David Tai, who built up Highlands Coffee and many other businesses here. His was one of the most inspirational kind of stories, and every time I meet him, it's so inspiring. Right? But to see that this was an environment where you could literally start with nothing and build something very special, massive. Not without its challenges. It was hard for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Many times it's hard for us. But to kind of see a decade later how that has unfolded has been fascinating. And so, so the transition to leave finance sounds like it wasn't hard, but was there a moment that you're like, oh, finance isn't for me? I mean, you've put in the 3 years? 3 years in the U.S. plus another.
So I was 3 years in the U.S. and then 2 years. I don't think I don't think there was a certain moment that was I realized and I woke up and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. But it was one of these things that was just gradual, right? And it took a lot of reflection, and it was sort of I know that this isn't. I don't want to do this in this role. So.
But how did you get comfortable? Because I feel like most of our peers and many of the families we work with, to say that, hey, you got that, private equity job was fantastic. And then to leave that, but then you landed in and you got a great position to run, a finance company, a securities company in Vietnam. And then to leave that also, right, and that industry, you could have easily gone on to do more things. And you kind of turned your back and said no.
Yeah, it is hard, right? Because I think that, there's a couple different things. Number one is I benefited. I don't have a family to support, right? And I think that's one big thing where I can still go and kind of make these decisions, right? And I can take those. I was able to take those sort of pivots without having these other stresses in my life, right? So, one was just having that sort of flexibility, and then second was just more basic. Was do I enjoy waking up, right? Do I enjoy this life? And I think when I was doing finance, I wasn't able to say yes. I wasn't. I thought it was interesting, but was I excited about it? No. And so and I was fortunate enough to be able to say, okay, I can do something different, and there wouldn't be these. I think you got a family. I think it changes things very. But when you're young, if you don't have those sort of commitments and responsibilities, you can make those decisions.
Yeah. Fantastic. I waited 15 years.
Better late than never.
Okay, jumping around a little bit more here. What's a good book that you've read in the last year that you would recommend?
I've read a lot of different books.
Do you read more fiction or nonfiction?
I read both, and so I just finished like an autobiography, which was interesting but really tough read. A fun one was like the book called King Killer Chronicles.
The
King Killer Chronicles.
King Killer Chronicles. What
Yeah,
is that about?
and it's a fantasy novel, and it's about it's sort of, you know, if you enjoyed like the Game of Thrones, like on the younger side, if you enjoyed Harry Potter, then it's a good series. And so it's about an adventure. I'll leave it at that. You guys can look it up. But I thought that was a really there's 2 books. There's a part of a 3-book series.
Yeah.
2 of them are out now, and the 3rd one's coming out. So.
What are your what's your favorite type of music or musician?
I love music. Like I wish, like you know, in an alternate like universe, like I would do something with music. But I like all kinds of music actually. But favorite probably has to be like R&B and hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
But then I like everything. I mean, I listen to rock, indie, dance, like everything, EDM. Like
any artists that are particularly who are you playing most in your Spotify playlist right now?
That's a good question. I don't think you know, I've been actually listening to a lot of like 80s and 90s music recently, right? And so been kind of So I go between listening, you know, more current, kind of modern stuff to kind of old
You're showing
stuff.
me new artists all the time.
Yeah.
I've never heard of them before. They're good.
Yeah. So.
Okay. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
Oh, 16-year-old self. Okay, so 16-year-old self. What would I tell my 16-year-old self? I think just, I would say like, you know, enjoy life, but I think I did that. So, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I think as you get older, you learn more, but I don't know that I could like tell myself something to do differently. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Things like, yes, like go out there, be more adventurous, but I was fortunate to kind of have a lot of those opportunities.
Okay. So you did everything perfectly? You
No,
wouldn't do
not
everything
this
again?
It wasn't perfect, but I'd say like definitely like, you know, studying abroad, like I mentioned, that was probably my one big regret. Like, you know, but actually, you know, to be fair, I think when I was young, I didn't have a lot of confidence to speak out on certain things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got older where I realized that, like, you know, it's important to stand up for what you believe in. And that was something I think when I was younger, I didn't have that confidence. And as I got older, I've learned to trust my instincts. I've learned to, you know, and I don't think I was wrong at that, or I don't think I was necessarily wrong. I just didn't have the confidence to speak up. So.
So I don't think most people, very few people, are just born with like confidence.
Yeah,
right? So I was not a confident person growing up, but now I do a ton of public speaking. Like what in your life gave you more confidence to speak up in general? And was it an issue? Was it an experience?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm actually not. But like in high school, I did a lot of public speaking, but it wasn't something that came naturally for me.
Yeah,
it's like anything else. Like it's just like repeated exposure, right? So the more you do something, you just get better, and as long as hopefully you reflect on it, you kind of look at you get feedback from other people. So I was lucky because I had a friend who was really good at public speaking. And he helped me a lot.
Oh yeah, you even introduced him to me.
Yeah, right.
He helped us on many of our first speeches.
He's still, he's a professional. Today he's a motivational speaker, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it was that. It was like I just, I guess to the best of my ability, I tried not to. Even though I was scared, I had to do it. So it wasn't like I, made this decision. I just had to. So it wasn't like.
So just as a side note for anybody watching who struggles with public speaking, I remember this conversation with your friend who. So we were trying to prepare one of our speeches, like
graduation speech.
It was a graduation speech for Canadian International School years ago, and he looked at it and it's like, this is very dry, guys. And the key was really, when we're faced with a talk, like how do you frame it in a way that emotionally connects to people more, and to do it more effectively in the form of a story.
Yeah.
So that was something I've really worked hard at trying to do in all of my formal speeches now, and I remember learning from that direct experience.
Yeah.
At the age of 35 at the time, right?
Yeah, and it's still kind of nerve-wracking today sometimes, right? Before you do a big speech, but you get more comfortable, and once you settle in, it's fine. But it's just repeated exposure, right? And so a lot of these things that you just do a lot, and you get better at it.
So you did a lot of public speaking, but in Key Club,
Yeah.
There was you opted to not give a speech, or it was part of your speech, like to win the Key Club governorship in California. So here's the version of the story that I know is that, and I've never heard the full thing actually.
Okay.
So I'd love to actually hear how it unfolded. But you were in Key Club at the school level. And then at some point you decided you wanted to run for the tri-state?
Yeah, it's California, Nevada, and Hawaii. Yeah.
So tri-state Key Club governorship, right? So like a very visible, prominent leadership position. And everybody has to go up, give a speech, and they vote on it. But somewhere along the lines there was not a speech, or I don't know.
No, I did the speech, but I think my first speech. So what happens is it's like 2 rounds, and so 2 rounds of speeches where you go into rooms and it's like 400 to 500 people in each room. So the convention, or maybe it's maybe less than that, but like the convention total has about like 3,000 attendees, right?
Yeah.
And so they're divided up into like 7-8 rooms.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you go from room to room, and there's 2 rounds, right?
Yeah.
So my first round, I gave a very traditional speech, right? And my second round was like,
Did you get applause for that?
Yeah, courteous applause and stuff. But my second round was like, I think I ran and I like flipped into the room, right? Because I'm like, I want to have fun with this, and it was much more fun, and it was much more about connecting with the crowd. It was less about
you ran and flipped.
Yeah, back then. Remember, I did gymnastics, right? So I was able to do and it was just totally just something really like. It's like it has nothing to do with actually my ability to run, but it was something people remembered.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and I still gave a speech.
What went through your head to even?
I don't know. I think it was like one of those things where it was between the first and second, and I was like, I need to change something, and so I had a friend who was helping me write the speech, and so I changed everything from my second round and just threw it out and just went and said, let's do something really fun. And I think I even used the stuffed animal as a prop. I think that's what it was. And it was one of those things that was like, okay, and it was dumb, but it was.
So you had a speech, you totally changed it.
Yeah, I changed it. Yeah.
But normally most people give the same speech twice.
No, because you're seeing the same people, right?
It's
the second round, and so you need to do something different, right? And so I was like, I can do something, and again, it would have been traditional, but I said, no, let's do something very different. So a close friend, she helped me work on a different speech, and
were you not scared of falling when you tried to do your flip?
I was actually, I was wearing dress shoes, so that was a little bit a little bit unnerving, but yeah, that was a little bit scary.
Okay, we'll wrap up here. Wei-Ding has a question. How did you juggle your social life with your academic life in high school?
Yeah, I mean, the priority for me was always high school was interesting. College was actually where it was tougher, but I'd say.
And I skipped the part. And more importantly, in college, when oversight from parents was.
That part. So that part was hard. And my grades suffered. My not suffered, but I mean they weren't terrible, but they weren't as good my freshman year. In high school, it was easy to get things done and still have time.
Yeah.
But so I didn't have to make that sort of trade-off, right? But in college, it was very different, right? College was, all of a sudden you have all of this.
So I can appreciate Wei-Ding's stress about this because, as a parent myself and herself, right? Like you look at your kids and it's like, well, do they have the self-discipline to do it, or do I have to helicopter over them, make sure they do everything, right?
So I think the biggest thing that prepared me was that when I was in high school, my dad was actually pretty strict, but he gave us room as well. And I think for some people, and I saw this in college, some people who, their parents were really strict. As soon as they got to college, it was like
gates wide open.
It's a complete change for them.
Yeah.
But it didn't faze me because it was just gradual, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of gradual responsibility where, I was able to demonstrate, and I think I remember my senior year, I had a lot of freedom, right?
Was there a rule if you don't do this, then
no, I was never like that, right?
Yeah.
But my dad, I think he saw that I was getting older, I was responsible, I was kind of making a lot of the right decisions. He gave me a lot of room, so my senior year I had a lot of freedom, and so by the time I got to college, it wasn't. I remember between my senior year of high school and freshman year, I traveled a lot during that summer, with friends, and my dad was sort of you've earned this, you know what I mean? But it was never conditional. It was just sort of, I think he just kind of adjusted, and so by the time I got to college, it wasn't that big of a deal for me to have my freedom. So I think it's gradual, and I think that it helped it a lot.
Very cool. Last question from an Edgar. Who is better in Vietnamese, Tony or Don?
Tony is better in Vietnamese. My Vietnamese is still to this day pretty poor. So.
Cảm ơn bạn Edgar đã đặt ra câu hỏi thú vị như vậy. Bonus của bạn sẽ cao hơn nhiều.
No idea what you're saying. No clue.
So this has been a blast. We should do this again at part 2. There's so many other questions I have that we didn't even touch on yet. We both got to slow down talking, but you really got to slow down more.
Probably.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.